talk about why I got rid of my Sportster, how I got this Triumph Speed Triple, absolute gorgeous beast of a motorcycle. So the really easy answer and why I came across this bike is because I worked at A&S Motorcycles up in Roseville. They're a Triumph, Ducati, and BMW dealership. So keep in mind, in this video, I have over 6 years of riding experience. I've ridden all different types of motorcycles. At my previous job, I was a test rider, so I got to test ride all the different bikes that came through service. So I have a deep love for all two-wheeled bikes. This is not gonna be a Harley hate show. Obviously, they're drastically different types of motorcycles, but maybe I'll give you guys some ideas to consider if you have a Sportster, you've been thinking about a Triumph. Here are some ideas to help you make the switch. My Sportster, it was a 1998, meaning it was carbureted and it was hard mounted to the frame. I think it was 2004 or 2005 is when Harley Davidson switched over from a hard mounted engine, meaning the engine bolted straight to the frame, to a rubber mounted engine, and that's what they started to do with their motorcycles so that you didn't get all that vibration. That was one thing I did not like about my Sportster. I grew into it and came to love it and then not notice it, but as soon as you ride anything else after riding an old Sportster or any old motorcycle like that, is that the vibrations will destroy your hands. Being that it was older, it was also carbureted. You guys know I love carburetors. I love working on carburetors. I consider myself a little bit of a carburetor whisperer. That being said, when I started to mess around with my Sportster's intake, I felt like I just couldn't get it quite right again after that. That, and when you have a carbureted bike, you have to wait for it to warm up typically. And this is my first fuel injected bike. I've never had a bike that I could just turn on and start and ride away. And like, of course you should let your bike warm up, but that is just incredible. The more that I rode new bikes, the more that the Sportster had going against it. I'm not sure how much the Triumph actually weighs, but it feels a lot heavier than my Bandit. Not nearly as heavy as my Sportster, and I don't know if it's just the way that the weight's distributed on the motorcycle, but my Sportster, even though it had a low seat, was very heavy, and with me having a bad knee now, it just made it even harder. My Sportster was the 883 version, and the 1200 I'm sure has got a little bit more power, but I never found that bike to be, in any definition of the word, fast. And honestly, the way Sportsters are right now, I feel like they're a little bit gimmicky. Folks do a lot of custom stuff to Sportsters, and that's one of their pros, is that there are a lot of different parts and aftermarket stuff available. You can probably buy freaking kits and make it whatever you want. There's just nothing exciting anymore about a Sportster for me. Points for the Sportster, like I said, there's definitely a huge aftermarket support, and they're very easy to work on. If you can find all kinds of forums, there's a lot of support for the bikes, which is awesome. Maybe it's your first bike and you want to do your own maintenance to it, it's a good option. So getting into the Speed Triple side of things, this one is a 2010 Triumph Speed Triple 1050 15th anniversary special edition. I always thought that my Bandit was really fast and powerful. This thing is a caged gorilla on steroids. Comparing the Sportster to the Speed Triple is really hard because they're a totally different style of bike, going from a cruiser to a hooligan machine. It's tons of low-end torque, it's very smooth, it's super comfortable. It's not really meant to go super fast. I feel like if I were to race like a 1000cc sport bike, I would definitely lose. So it doesn't have super speed, but it has a lot of power. I like bikes that feel fast. I always stopped riding my Sportster because I just had a different taste in personal motorcycles and what I like to ride, because I like to do big long trips. I like to ride on the highway. I commute to work a lot, and I felt that the Sportster just couldn't hang with what I needed a motorcycle to do. I needed a bike that was really responsive, quick off the line, and of course do dank woolies. And the Sportster just wasn't up to the task. Another issue I've noticed is that going into turns with this, I do have a little bit of front end chatter, and I don't know if it's just that my front end's not really, I haven't had it set up by anybody and I haven't adjusted it to me. I just tweaked it on my own and softened it up a bit because the person who had this before me was a lot heavier than I was. But I do get a lot of chatter trying to get really deep into really tight turns, which is something I'm not a fan of, and if you've ever experienced it, it does not feel great. So parts for a Triumph, with this being a previous generation of the Triumphs, now they have the new iteration of the Speed Triple 1050s. The aftermarket support is sort of hit and miss. There are some really good things out there for the speed triples of this generation, which I think is early 2000s to 2010, I think is the last year that this style came out. I've been able to pick up a couple of things for this, some stuff from Triumph directly, some stuff's not available anymore from Triumph, so I go to eBay and whatnot. One thing against this is that I have a hard time trying to find luggage. Because of the exhaust on it being underneath the seat coming up on the sides, either spit out the money for Hepco and Becker set of luggage, or I have to figure out my own way to configure a luggage setup, which is something that's I'm not really looking forward to. I really don't want all my stuff to get burned on exhaust and I don't want to pile it 10 feet high off the back of my seat. Those are just a couple of things to consider. If you have a Sportster, maybe you're looking at a Triumph, maybe you're kind of getting tired of your Sportster and you're looking for the sign to get rid of it, this is your sign. Get the next bike. If you're thinking about getting the Triumph Speed Triple, absolutely go for it. It is an amazing bike, and some of you may be like, this is a pile of dog shit, but to each their own. I'm really excited. This has got about 10,000 miles on it. I'm super stoked to put more miles on it and really have this is like the newest bike I've ever had. And it's really hard not to wasteland this bike out without making anybody too upset. If you want to be a scrub and ride your Sportster, that's cool, man. That's all right. I think for me, long term, I just sort of outgrew the Sportster, figured out what I like to ride personally, and went with the Triumph because it's absolutely badass. Have you seen this thing? Have you heard this thing? It's so cool. So I'm sorry for anybody who really liked the Sportster videos, but I can't do any more of those because I don't have it anymore. Now we are really getting into some different bikes on this channel. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for sticking around. If you only watch me for the Sportster videos, I'm sorry. Maybe one day I will have another Sportster. I don't know. One thing you can count on is that this is never going to be a single motorcycle type of channel. I'm always going to have different bikes, and this is definitely a completely new territory being a Triumph. So if you like this video, go ahead and I don't even know what to say at the end of this video.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right?